Hey, it's Rocky. Welcome to Richer Soul. Today's guest is George Halachev, who's going to help us improve our productivity. Imagine it's 12 months from now, and you've achieved your major life goals. How does it feel to be in the best shape of your life? To wake up energized, excited about the day? To have great relationships and friends who support you and propel you forward? How does it feel to have an excess of money, to be able to make the choices you want? To be fearless and open to trying new adventures? Imagine being connected to the universe and it providing everything you desire. It's possible over time, and your past does not dictate your future. The only thing holding you back from this vision is you. It's time to take control of our thoughts and use them to our advantage. Welcome to Richer Soul, where we achieve our dreams and bring balance to health, wealth, relationships, time, and spirituality. If you have not had a chance to listen to episodes 1 through 9, I encourage you to go back and listen to the framework behind Richer Soul and how to create the life of your dreams. You can also find all the show notes for this episode at richersoul.com. While you're there, you can sign up for a monthly email where I share the best articles I read this month, let you know about upcoming episodes, and share a little wisdom. You can also listen to coaching calls under the Coaching Calls tab. I also share the most interesting articles I read every week on Facebook at facebook.com/Richer Soul. And there's also a Facebook group where you can ask questions and interact with other listeners. Today's quote is from Alfred Adler. To be a human being means to possess a feeling of inferiority which constantly presses towards its own conquest. The greater the feeling of inferiority that has been experienced, the more powerful is the urge for conquest, and the more violent the emotional agitation. I'm thinking this is probably why so many people have to face a life-altering event to get them to wake up and face the music and make the change that they want in life. As I look at it, my life is like a 1,000,000-piece puzzle. Do you know how long it would take to put a puzzle together with 1,000,000 pieces? A lifetime. The hard part is to figure out where to even begin. I like to start at the edges because I know that every edge piece has a straight line, and so it's easier to figure out where it belongs. Once the edges are there, it becomes easier to start filling in the blanks. The edges in our life are learning to walk, to talk, to socialize, to be educated in the basics of the world. Once you're done with that, you still have a massive hole in the middle of the puzzle and no clear idea what the picture looks like, and a lot of pieces you need to fit together. Those pieces come from the people who mentor you, books that provide clarity, maybe a podcast that gives you some knowledge, and a lot of introspection into your own mind. Little by little, the pieces fall into place, and over time, our lives get clearer. When you know what the picture you're creating looks like, it's a lot easier to find the pieces and put them in their place. That's why knowing your purpose is so helpful. All of the pieces also have to fit together. Otherwise, it's a bunch of jumbled pieces that don't seem to make sense. It's a lot more fun to put puzzles together with other people because they see things differently than you do. They can help place the pieces where they belong. Remember, it takes a lifetime to finish your puzzle, unless you give up, in which case, your life is probably a frenzied mess that doesn't seem to be going anywhere. The pieces do go together when you do one thing, and that's take action. So take it. In today's episode, we'll talk about how to overcome procrastination and increase our productivity so you can take action. George's passion is teaching and coaching people to be more effective in their lives and businesses. He has spent the last 5 years building his coaching business and worked with over 1,000 people one-on-one. He also writes articles related to productivity and habit building on his blog at georgehalachev.com. Let's meet our guest. Welcome to Richer Soul, George Halachev. It's great to have you join us today.
Hey, Rocky. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
and I'm excited to have this conversation. As always, we start at the beginning. What was it like when you were growing up, and how much did your family and school teach you about money?
It's a good question. Always a good place to start to get the background story, right? The origin story. I grew up, it wasn't particularly poor family, but they weren't also making a ton of money. I also live in Bulgaria, which is kind of a different standard. So I'm guessing most of the audience is from the US. It's kind of difficult to compare money-wise, like specific sum of money. But just to give you the idea, they were both working in 9-to-5 job. They were making some money, but there was always a sense of they could do more and we could afford more. We weren't like struggling to find money for the next meal, right? So kind of a mid-ranged, mid-class family, if that makes sense.
Makes total sense. I think that's where a lot of people grow up.
Yeah. And since you asked me more about the thinking, right? Thinking about money, there was always this thought that making money is hard, right? That's what I think most people start with. That's how they're conditioned. You have to work hard for the money. And if you want to make more money than other people, you have to do it with hard work and a lot of effort, right? And that was one of the mindsets that I grew up with in my teens. But I was very lucky that very early on, I got access to the internet and started reading some materials from gurus, right? And different articles and courses and YouTube videos where I started to change my mindset a little bit. So that kind of thinking didn't persist with me in my 20s. That's how I grew up. But I was very lucky to find this education early on and to be able to change it early on before I actually started to work and job and creating a business. And I didn't start doing that with that mindset.
Was there someone in particular that you were listening to?
Early on, well, there are two people that I consider like mentors that I learned almost everything about money. One of them is Eben Pagan. He's a very internet popular marketer, creates a lot of courses. And very early on, I got access to his courses, like bought a couple of them. And he introduced me to a whole new mind of thinking, like a whole new way of thinking. And what I like about his stuff is that he takes ideas from psychology, takes ideas from a bunch of different people that have succeeded and tries to synthesize all of that. So even though I had access to, in the beginning, it was only his courses, I got a very broad view of how things look like financially and what an effective mindset about money is. So that's one. And the other one was Steve Pavlina, which introduced me to the concept of abundance, like feeling abundant, even if you don't have money, thinking of wealth in a different way, like appreciating and having gratitude for the things that you do have, even if those are like very cheap things. But if you appreciate those things, it lets you be in the mindset of abundance. And that gives you access to ideas that can eventually lead to actually creating money and creating financial success.
And so you were quite lucky in that you got exposed to them. And I know you called them mentors, but these aren't people that you met, correct?
Not in the beginning, no. Eben Pagan I've never met. Steve Pavlina I've talked to a couple of times, and now I'm part of a mastermind that he organizes. So I get a chance to talk to him from time to time. But early on, it was mostly through his online work, like the articles and the courses that he was publishing.
And so I think that's just important for people to say, oh, I don't have a mentor. How am I going to find a mentor? They're all out there. Right. You can go on YouTube, on the internet. You can find a majority of their work. And some of it you have to pay for, but a lot of it is free. And you can get a tremendous amount of it for free. So wherever you are, the opportunity to find an amazing mentor is there just by studying the people who are way ahead of you.
Yeah, definitely. Not knowing how to do something is not a valid excuse anymore. As long as you put some effort into it, you can learn, you can teach yourself to do anything.
And that's very true. Today, anything that you want to do, there's probably a video on YouTube on how to do it. And if there isn't, you should make one because you'll get paid to teach others how to do what no one else has taught them how to do.
Yeah, definitely. That actually reminds me of how the education system is changing, like globally, from a very kind of a industrialism mindset from finding like studying for 4 years and then getting your master's degree and then staying in a job for basically your entire life, right? Very few people used to change their jobs. And now it's happening all the time. Even if it's not switching to a different company or switching to a different business, a lot of switching in skills and responsibilities and positions and things that we have to do. And that makes it even more important to create that skill and create that confidence in yourself that you can learn anything, right?
And that's very true. And I've seen that, especially with my kids. What I'm seeing is the things that they were learning in high school, as we visited colleges, the colleges were kind of a bit behind the curve because things are moving so fast, they can't keep up. Now, many of the colleges, I see them kind of incorporating a lot more of that. So they are bringing in the new technologies. They are doing all of that. But as fast as things are changing, if you learn how to learn, you get to be at the leading edge always. And when you're at the leading edge, you become the expert of whatever it is that you're at the leading edge of. And that gives you the ability to skyrocket past other people. Because I grew up in a very different generation where, it was seniority, wait your turn, don't jump ahead. But today, if you find a new technology and you're the leading edge of it, you get to surpass everybody and cut all those years out instead of wasting time. So it is pretty incredible.
Yeah, and I even feel like it's necessary nowadays. Since so many people are doing it, if you're not doing it, it's not only that you're ahead of everybody else, but you're even falling behind and you cannot catch up, right? So it's kind of it becomes almost like a prerequisite for anything really, but especially creating a successful business, since it's becoming more and more competitive online. You have to learn that, and you have to learn the skill of learning basically, and how to switch quickly and take different positions and responsibilities.
That is very, very true. And I think because I see this a lot when I read stuff online, people think, oh, I want to learn a new career. I need to go back to college. But I think the smart people are not going back to college. They're going to YouTube. They're going to the internet. You can learn so much, and you can learn what's more relevant on your own than having to go back to a structured program. And the difference in cost is night and day. I mean, you can learn for free instead of having to spend thousands of dollars and so much of your time.
Yeah. And just to give you an example of what we were talking about, right now I'm working on a course, right? And I'm trying to do everything myself, from the marketing and the advertising and the content creation, writing the script, delivering the script, shooting the video, editing the video. And to get the education for all these things, you probably have to be in a college for, 30 years or something to get a bachelor's degree on all those skills. But if you start with the goal in mind, like what do you want to get in the end? And what do I want to get? I want to create a great course, right? Great quality, great content, and have it good enough so that I can deliver value to the people that I work with. And if I start with that goal, I can ask myself, do I really need the 4-year in college to learn that? No, not really. Like, I only need a few tools in, let's say, Adobe Premiere to learn how to cut the video and add a bunch of effects and edit it, and that's it. And really, it took me like 2 days to watch a couple of tutorials online on YouTube, and I could edit my own video, and there you go. I didn't need to outsource it. I didn't need to hire an expert or anything like that. It's a pretty simple video, of course. You can do a lot more, but that's what I need. And that's what, starting with the goal first, start with the end in mind, like Stephen Covey said, it allows you to cut all those corners that you don't really need, and to cut the time that you need to learn something like that significantly.
And I think for your first course, you do the best you can, and you put it out, and you learn what the market wants. I've paid thousands of dollars for certain courses that were so basic in design, But the material was so valuable, it wasn't the presentation that mattered. It was the information.
Yeah, definitely. It's the same thing with the information, you cannot create a master course like the best in the world if it's your first one. You still need that feedback with people and to have back and forth and get really see if your information is helping somebody. And that's, again, the feedback cycle of improving it again and again and again.
And that's very true. I think is getting the feedback and making sure, because I think a lot of people do that. They go off, they create a course, they spend hundreds of hours creating something without any market feedback. And then when they try to sell it, nobody buys it. And then on top of that, they don't know where the struggle points are, because the amount of people who buy a course and finish a course is very, very teeny. Most people don't complete what they started, which is a shame. And we'll dig into that some more.
Yeah.
But having that constant feedback and building it creating it as you're getting live feedback is a tremendous way to build a course. So there's a lot of people who will go out there and say, I'm going to build a course on X, and they pre-sell the course, and they literally build it with the constant feedback of those initial people who were part of their course.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most successful approaches there, and it's the fastest too.
It is. And you have revenue coming in day one instead of waiting for your revenue to come in after you spend thousands of dollars and hours trying to build something that maybe the world wants.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're here today to talk about productivity and kind of bumping it up to a much higher level than most people do.
Sure.
You didn't start off productive, did you?
Oh, no, quite the opposite, actually. I struggle with this a lot, especially in my early 20s. But just to give you a few examples, it took me 3 extra years to finish college because of procrastination. I just couldn't get myself to do things. And when it comes to the goals and the habits that I had, I knew how to do everything. I knew, to get in shape, I knew that I had to fix my diet and go and work out. I knew to have a good social life. I needed to go out more and explore more interests. But in terms of productivity and actually going and doing those things, I just couldn't get myself to do any of that. So it went through quite a long process of, studying those people that I told you about and the mentors, and learning and trying and implementing different techniques in my life and just seeing what works for me and what doesn't. So it took me probably a couple of years of learning and implementing until those goals that I had in mind in my early 20s actually started to become a reality.
And I think people need to realize that these things don't happen overnight. They are slow, constant steps that build over time. So what was it that made you decide to make a change in the way you were to become more productive and to stop procrastinating?
It's an interesting question because goes back to it's not one day or one event. It's more like it's a much more gradual process, right? But I'd say that looking at all the goals that I had, let's say when I was 20, and the years were rolling, I got 21, 22, and none of those goals got even a little bit of progress, right? So I thought my current approach is not working here. Like something is missing. I'm not going to be able to complete any of that or achieve any of that if I didn't change something. And that's what pushed me into looking for some solutions online, looking for some mentors. And again, starting with the end in mind, what kind of a person do I want to be in 10 years and 15 years and 30 years? And starting to look for the people online that are those kinds of people that have achieved those financial goals, those relationship goals, their body image goals, and starting to model them and starting to listen to their advice. So I'd say in those couple of years that I studied them, there was a slow and gradual progress. It wasn't just one thing that, flipped the switch. And, I woke up on the next morning and I was the most productive person in the world. Right.
And that's very true. It doesn't happen overnight.
Yep.
So let's talk about goals, because I've heard you say having clear goals matter. And I think one of the ways to maybe define what's a clear goal is to look at what's an unclear goal and what would be some examples of that. And then how do we take that unclear goal and make it a very clear goal?
Yeah, I would say that is the number one challenge when I work with people one-on-one on coaching. And I coach people on productivity, building habits, achieving goals. And the first thing almost always is to clarify the goal. Because most people start out with something very vague. So it would be something like get in shape. It would be something like find a new job, make more money, lose weight, or get a girlfriend, move to another country, right? And on a first glance, like when you first hear that, it sounds fine, right? All people have similar goals. It doesn't sound like it's bad or inefficient or anything like that. But having something so general and so undefined, unspecified, doesn't really inspire any kind of action, right? And that is really what takes to get to the goals eventually, taking consistent action. And that is the first problem, that losing weight, for example, doesn't inspire you to take specific action. You don't have a specific target in mind. You don't have a picture in your head how you want to look like. And when you do get that picture, exactly what you want to look like, and you start getting those feelings of inspiration that one day you will be like that, then it's much easier to go into the strategy, right? It's much easier to create a meal plan. It's much easier to, hire a trainer or start going to the gym, find a good exercise for you, whatever it is. And that is the second phase. It's creating the strategy about how to get there. But almost always, the first step is not well defined to lead you to a good strategy, right? That's what I see most people make a mistake with. Another thing would be starting or stating the goal in terms of not the result that they want, but just something that they've heard, like make more money. But what is the actual specific result? The goal itself is the result that we want to get. Like, how much more money do you want to get? Is it $10,000? Is it just one time? Is it recurring? How much work do you have to do to get that type of money? So first of all, start with the specific result that you want. And after that, after you feel the inspiration from the goal, then you can move into the strategy and the how.
For example, this goal of making more money, are people going to do this on a consistent long-term basis just to make more money, or do they need to have an underlying reason for what that money is going to give them? Yeah,
again, a very good point about goal setting, that people don't think of the goal. So let's take money as an example. People think of the money as the final result that they want, but is it really? And for money specifically, for most people, it's means to an end. So getting more money is the means goal. Setting some kind of a result that you want to get more money so that you can get more freedom, so that you can travel more, so that you can retire early, whatever it is, right? And if you focus only on the means, which in this case is the money, it's very hard to get motivated, right? It's very hard because money itself doesn't do anything. It's what money allows you to do, and the life that you're going to be living once you have that money. That is where the real inspiration comes and where the real motivation comes, and when you actually can go and start taking action.
And that's very true. What are some of the biggest struggles that people ask for help with?
When it comes to money, is usually finding something that they would enjoy doing and would still earn them money. Most people that come to me either have a business or have some kind of a job that they're not happy with, and they're not productive, and they want to improve their productivity. And I always try to look at the underlying reasons why that's the case. We can start with a lot of techniques, tips, and tricks about how to increase productivity. But if there's something underlying there that is not, the foundations are not good, like, for example, they don't like the type of job that they're doing on a daily basis, or they don't like the kind of impact that their company is making on the world, it's going to be very hard to motivate yourself and become more productive with techniques and tips and tricks about productivity. You have to look at the underlying reasons. So for most people, it's always when they're trying to be more productive. In most cases, it's trying to match their passion or what they're good at to what is actually a good strategy that is going to bring them money consistently and is going to give them that abundance.
And I think most people don't take that step.
Yeah.
And that's probably why they struggle and they don't have long-term success, is because they don't look at themselves first. They're looking for the result, but they're never doing the deep work of looking inside, figuring out their strengths, their weaknesses, their desires, their goals, and what they truly want, and then building life around that.
Yeah. Or they're not looking deep enough. As I said, they're only looking at the means. They want to get a job to get some kind of money, but they don't look holistically at their life, right?
So when you say holistically, what are the different areas that you're referring to?
So for example, let's take the job example. Most people, the first thing that they look at is how much money they're going to get paid, right? And let's say you get paid a lot of money. Like, you don't have to think about money at all. And you're set for life, even if those are the conditions. Okay, but that's just one area of life. What if you did get that money, but you hated going to the office every morning because the type of work that you do is just not for you? It's not who you are. Let's say you're a software developer in Facebook or Google or whatever, and you get paid a ton of money, but you don't like programming. That's not in your blood. That's not who you are. You want to be a creative person, for example. You want to paint and draw and something like that. So would it be worth it for you to sacrifice that part of yourself, your creative expression, and being happy to go to the office, being eager to go and work every day for the money, right? That is a more holistic view. And again, those are just two categories, and there are many more in your life that to lead a really rich and abundant life holistically, you have to look at all those categories individually. For example, your family. What if you got that kind of money, but you didn't get enough time to spend with your children or your parents or your partner or whatever? What if you didn't have any time to make friends and go out and enjoy yourself socially? What if you wanted to start some kind of a spiritual practice like meditation or yoga or reading scripture, whatever it is? What if you didn't have any time for that, right? So there are all these categories that we have to consider if we really want to get a job that is not just for the money, or the same thing applies to building a business, but looking at all those categories and making a holistic choice.
And that's very true. And that's what we talk about. You have to build your life, and you have to put all of those different pieces of the puzzle together in a way that matches with what your goals and your desires are, and kind of paint the picture for your life and actually take the time to think through it. And a lot of times that needs help. And so having a coach who can ask you the questions and force you to focus on those things is what brings about the success. So as we look at goals, I think, because I've heard you say that there is a difference in success when we look at short-term results versus a long-term type of goal. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, that goes back to the means and ends goal as well. So short-term goal is, again, looking at it very focused and just isolated view from your life. Like, you want to earn $10,000 this month, which is a great goal, right? It's specific. You can take action. You can be inspired by that. but also not looking at the long-term results of that goal. What is that going to do to your life? And specifically, in which way are you going to do this goal? And how is that going to affect your life? Because if you do some kind of a scam, or you get all that money without providing enough value, how is that going to impact your long-term success, right? Let's say you have a YouTube channel and you do some kind of a promotion and you promote a great product and you have a lot of money coming in, but that product is not aligned with your audience, or it's not a good product, and you did it just only for the money without even believing in the product. Okay, you got that money, but how is that going to affect your audience long term? How are people going to see you? And does that mean that sacrificing those results for the short-term game, is it worth it in the long run? Is it worth it in 5 years, in 10 years?
And that's very true.
Yeah.
So one of the things I think that prevents people from success is procrastination. It's always, I'll do that tomorrow. I'll get to that tomorrow. I'll get to that next week.
Yeah.
And yet I've seen you say that there are different kinds of procrastinators. So I'd love for you to kind of share how you look at procrastination and then maybe how we can overcome that.
Yeah. Again, I try to take a deeper look at what is really going on. If you start reading some stuff online, you can find a lot of techniques to overcome procrastination, especially with all the digital tools that we have, like go and don't download an app to block your internet access on your computer, and that is going to make you more productive and is going to get rid of all the distractions and stop the procrastination. And that helps in a lot of cases. But again, if you look deeper at what is the reason for procrastinating, let's say you have this project and you cannot get yourself to work on it consistently, and you delay until next week and eventually becomes months. Well, I think in those cases, it's not so much about the techniques and finding little strategies to force yourself to work every day, but look at why you're procrastinating in the first place. And that is why procrastination is such a hard thing to overcome, because for everybody is different. Everybody has a different reason why they're doing it. So let's say you have this project and you can't get yourself to work on it. Well, it could be just a misalignment issue. You're not aligned with the value that product delivers, for example. So you don't believe that it's a good enough product, and something in the fundamental design is wrong. So how are you going to get yourself to work on it if there is that fundamental misalignment? Little tips and techniques and apps are not going to help fix that issue, right? There is something that is wrong in the core, right? And unless you take a deeper look at what is causing the procrastination, it's not gonna be solved in the long term. Sure, you can get yourself to work with discipline and willpower for a week or two, but then eventually you're always going to go back to it and always going to procrastinate. And just to give you a personal example, when I was looking at my own life and why I was procrastinating in my early 20s, like I told you, 3 extra years to finish college, I didn't know it back then, but now with hindsight, I knew that it wasn't the right type of education for me, or at least I wasn't getting enough value from it. Like the courses that I was going to, the thesis that I was doing, all the coursework, it wasn't really going to bring me anything long-term in life. And I had that internal feeling. I didn't realize it back then. It was just about the diploma. That's because everybody did it back then. But deep down, the reason for the procrastination was because I knew that it was just a waste of time. In the end, it wasn't going to bring anything significant in my life. So I didn't get the motivation internally to work on it. And I had to force myself and look for little tips and tricks, which, eventually worked. But if I was aligned, I'd probably done it in just a fraction of the time.
I think that's something that a lot of parents and young people should take to heart is I can't tell you how many times kids are walking into college doing something because they think they have to, instead of going to college with a clear path. I want to do X. This is the degree I need for X. And I've actually researched it and I know it. And I've talked to people in that field and I know what it means to work in that field. And I know what the future of the field is. And I know what the best school for this is. Most people are like, I have to go to college. This place looks cool. This place looks fun. I can afford this, or, I want to go live in a particular part of the country. And they're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on not the greatest decisions. And then they struggle in college because, as you said, if it's not what you're really enjoying and you don't have that end in mind, whatever, I'll put it off. I'm having fun. Why worry? And I think people dig themselves a pretty big hole.
Yeah, especially with the cost of education, then you have to pay for years afterwards.
That is true. So how do we break some bad habits? What do we need to do to stop doing what's not best for us?
Great question. I always start with the reason why the bad habit is there, right? Instead of trying to stop the bad habit with willpower, discipline, and force ourselves to stop, look at what the bad habit is giving you. Because usually, if we do something on a regular basis, there is some kind of a payoff that we're getting, some kind of a secondary benefit. Yeah, it might cause a lot of bad in our life, a lot of negative things in the long run, or even now. But if you're keeping up with it, if you're still doing it, there is something that you're getting out of it. So let's take spending habits. Let's say somebody is a shopaholic, right? And they just cannot get their spending under control. And they realize it. Most of the time we realize that logically that is not good for us and we should change it. But most people try to do it, push it away, and do not accept that it's the habit is there for a reason, right? And what could be the secondary benefit from being a shopaholic, for example? Well, it could be that you just don't have enough excitement in your life right now. Like your life is very boring, at least in that point of time that you're doing it. So with shopping, it's a way to get a quick dopamine hit, or just to make yourself feel better, or do something interesting and exciting for a while. Right? So that is a secondary benefit. And again, it goes back to the core. If you're trying to override the bad habit with willpower and a bunch of techniques, sure, you can do it for a while, or a couple of weeks. But then again, the need that is underneath the habit, that need for excitement and variety and doing something interesting, for example, it's going to bring the bad habit back, or it's going to make you do some other bad habit that fulfills that need, right? It's going to make you gambling or whatever it is, just to make yourself feel excited. So unless you fix that underlying need for why the habit is there in the first place and replace it with something that is healthy, like a healthy habit that really fills the void of what you're missing in your life, it's going to keep coming back. And I believe that is the main reason why people struggle so much with quitting different kinds of addiction, alcohol, smoking, drinking, whatever it is. There is some kind of a underlying reason, secondary benefit that is not fulfilled in a healthy way. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. And I've heard that in the past, that if you're going to remove a habit from your life, you do have to replace it with something, whatever it is. So whether it's cigarettes or drinking or whatever, if you take that away, you have to have something to replace that time and that feeling. Otherwise, it's so easy to go back to the habit. And in all cases, there is something underlying deeper that needs to get fixed that you're probably not addressing. And when you address that deeper issue, then it's easy to break the bad habits and to start new productive habits. And the other thing that is funny, and I don't know if you've heard this, but one of the things I've heard is the subconscious mind doesn't hear the word no or don't or stop. So if I say to myself, I'm going to stop drinking, the subconscious mind just hears, I'm going to be drinking. It doesn't hear that negative word. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, definitely. That's how it works. And to break a pattern that your brain goes into, you really cannot you cannot doing it by saying to yourself that you'll stop. You need to put some kind of a pattern interrupt, like something that is in the way of doing the habit. Let's say you smoking, you're trying to quit smoking, and you're not gonna quit smoking by saying to yourself, I'm gonna stop every day, because as you said, the subconscious mind is hearing only smoking. There is no concept of the negative, right? At least subconsciously. So the way to do it instead is to put some kind of a pattern interrupt between the cue, the thing that is triggering you to start doing the bad habit, between the cue and the action that is going to interrupt that pattern and that way of thinking, and is going to introduce the new behavior. It's going to introduce the good and positive habit that is going to fulfill that inner need that we were talking about.
And that's very true. We'll be back with George in a moment. George helps coach people who want to be more productive. Sometimes you need an expert to bring about change to be faster. I help small business owners focus on creating profit in their business and using the profit to build the life of their dreams. Everyone is different. You have unique skills and desires, and having someone help you on the journey who can help you achieve your dreams even faster. Many of us will see millions of dollars pass through our hands over our lifetime. How much are you holding on to create the strong foundation that allows everything else to happen? I help small businesses do just that. Reach out. It's Rocky@richersoul.com to schedule a short call to see if I can help you in your business. Now, let's get back to our guest, George, and hear about his nutrition and exercise plans. Let's dig into maybe some examples of how we do some of these types of things. I know you spend a lot of time on your health and on your workouts and how you eat. Let's share some examples, because I think we do a lot of very similar things. And I think some of your foundation for that, it comes from Tim Ferriss, correct?
Some of it, yeah. Although I discovered Tim quite late. That was probably like a couple of years ago. Before him, I was doing a lot of experimentation too. But I can credit him to doing keto. Definitely. That's where I got introduced to keto and I got inspired to try it myself. And that's what I do till today. That's the diet that works best for me.
And I think that's also important. It's the diet that works best for you. Do you feel like you miss anything because of keto?
No, that was actually the surprising thing. Because as I said, I experimented with a lot of different things before. Like, for example, I tried raw vegan. I tried going low carb. I tried to go high carb with very low fat. And with all those things, there was always something missing deep down. Like I had to use willpower and motivation to keep myself on track, right? There was always issues with hunger and things like that. With keto, that struggle is only in the first couple of days, at least for me. Again, it doesn't work for everybody. Everybody has to find the thing that works for them. But the general principle is that for me, unless I could get it to the point where I feel fulfilled on a physical level, and again on an emotional level, I had to keep using that willpower. And I did it for a couple of months and always fell off track because something was missing. With keto, I never have to worry about hunger. I never have to worry about those insulin spikes where, you eat something and then half an hour later you're in a food coma, so you cannot do anything. All you can think of is a nap. All those things disappeared for me on keto. And I've never struggled that much with losing weight, But now I don't even have to worry about it. Like losing and staying lean is almost like a side effect from keto. I don't have to think about it even, just happens.
And that's very true. When you eat a diet that works for you and one that's enjoyable, it's easy. Because on my diet, I eat bacon and I love bacon. So it's easy to say, oh, I'm going to have some bacon. And I can even have ice cream, so it's good. I have balance there. And I think you do intermittent fasting. I do that as well. So I don't eat till at least noon at the earliest on a given day. I think a lot of people think you have to have breakfast. And the problem for most people is when they have breakfast, it's all carbs, which is opposite of keto. And you're going to go through the spikes of insulin and all of the difference that occurs from that. And so when you start cutting these things out, and again, it takes time. It's not something that you do day one and all of a sudden it's perfect. Your body has to get used to the change and has to change the way that it fuels itself, because it is a dramatic shift in how the body uses energy. It goes from food to burning calories instead of taking in calories. And so that works dramatically. What are you doing for workouts?
I go to the gym. I do it because I like it. I say that because I tried a lot of different things for exercise before. I tried cardio. I tried jogging. I tried just a walk in the park. I tried yoga, a whole bunch of different things. But all those were boring to me. They weren't motivating enough to keep me going. So it was the same pattern again. Do it for a couple of months, and then a couple of months, I just do nothing for exercise. And it wasn't until I figured something that was intrinsically rewarding for me. Like it wasn't to see the results in a couple of months. It was just because I went to the gym and I felt great right then and there. And that is the thing that allowed me to maintain a consistent exercise routine. It wasn't forcing myself or having high motivation or anything like that. It was just the intrinsic motivation from doing something that you like. And also, that's interesting. Actually, another thing that I didn't think of it as exercise in the beginning was salsa dancing. Like a couple of years ago, I went to a couple of lessons salsa dancing, and I love it. It's a way to be social. It's a way to move your body, and it's a way to have fun. And that is just free cardio there. Every time I go out to a salsa party, I just get some cardio as a side benefit. So I think the most important thing to have a consistent exercise schedule is just find something that you love. Even if the results are not optimal in terms of getting the best athletic performance or whatever it is, just find something that you love, and it's going to be much easier to stick with it.
And that's true. And again, it's find something you love, not something that someone else loved and worked for them. It comes back to, doing the experimentation to see what works for you, and then realizing that just because you worked out doesn't mean you get to eat, because you tend to eat a lot more than what your workout just burned, because workouts don't really burn much calories comparatively, which is kind of the thing. Because I remember when I was growing up, it was like, oh, we're going to go lift. We need to carb load. And it's like, worst thing in the world you can possibly do if you want to actually get lean and muscular. So along the same lines, what about morning routines? Do you have a specific morning routine that you use that helps you to be successful?
Yeah, interesting you should ask. The course that I'm actually creating right now is about morning routines and how to create one for yourself. And yes, I've been doing it for many years right now, 5 years or something like that. And it's been one of the most helpful techniques to really help me get over the procrastination and to become more productive. And it was because I stopped thinking of achieving goals and just getting things done in life as individual action steps. I started thinking more in terms of habit, like where can I put my daily willpower, that little amount of willpower that we waste every day in individual actions, and how I can direct that into creating a habit that happens automatically without thinking about it, and that can work for us for years afterwards. So that was one of the main things that allowed me to start changing this and start achieving some of the goals. Start thinking in terms of habits. But again, even at that point, it was hard to implement the habits because there are many goals in our lives that we want to achieve. So just one positive habit like working out is not gonna change your life across the board. We need many different things like meditation, exercise, and creating value every day. Keeping yourself healthy diet. So there are many different things. And the key for me was trying to batch all those things that I need to do on a daily basis and turning the whole thing into one big chunk. So it will be a sequence of habits that I go through every day that allow me to do the actions that I need to do consistently that will lead me to the goals long term. And why it's a morning routine, why I do that big chunk in the morning. Well, there are many different reasons. It's, first of all, our willpower, our own discipline is strongest in the morning. So we can much more easily force ourselves to exercise and go work on a project if we haven't been exhausted by all the different responsibilities that we have during the day, right? All the different decisions that we take. Also, there are much fewer distractions for most people in the morning. Like you don't get constant phone calls, messages, people talking to you in the house or the office. So it's much easier to focus on that. So that really was the key for me. And you asked me what my morning routine is specifically, and it changes all the time. It changes depending on what my goal in life is at that point in time. Let's say this year I'm going to focus on business. So my morning routine is going to be comprised of things that support me in that direction. So right now, I would do 10 to 15 minutes of meditation, which is a great start for me to calm my mind and get centered so that I'm not affected by, negative things happening during the day and I can stay present with the work. I do a little bit of exercise in the morning, not the gym part. I do a couple of push-ups or something just to get the blood pumping, right? That to wake me up and get myself in a good mood, right? And I do a bunch of things in the morning that just supports me. But the main point here is the big mistake that I see people make with their morning routines is to copy a template and not think about the consequences of those habits that they do. I think the morning routine should support your goals that you have currently in life. So if you're trying to be more present, more conscious, meditate. If you're trying to lose weight, prepare a healthy breakfast if you're having a breakfast, or go to the gym. So figure out what is the strategy to achieving your goals and implement that in your morning routine. That is what's worked for me and what works with most of the people that I coach.
And thank you for sharing that. I think a lot of this comes down to some of our underlying needs. And I've noticed you've mentioned Tony Robbins, I think, in the past, and some of the underlying needs that we have. I'd love for you to kind of share your take on that.
Yeah, the needs for people who haven't heard of the concept, I recommend watching Tony's TED video. It's one of the most popular. It's got millions of views out there. It's very entertaining too. But Tony talks about the underlying needs that we all have as humans, not the goals and the desires that are different across everybody, but the underlying fundamental needs without which we're not fulfilled. And if those needs are not fulfilled, we, as we talked about, look for negative habits to fulfill them, like drink and smoke and take drugs or whatever it is. So to go over them quickly, the needs, one of the first needs is certainty. So the need for certainty is the feeling that we have that we're going to be secure in the foreseeable couple of months. So we're not going to starve. We're not going to be left alone and everybody's going to abandon us. We're going to have homes to stay, so, roof over our heads, so we're not going to be left on the street. And that is basically taking care of the fight or flight mechanism. If we're constantly worried about our survival, it's very hard to focus on higher needs, like the Maslow. That is another model that I like, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you're worried about the very low portion of the pyramid, which is survival, you're not going to be able to think about higher goals like creating better relationships, having impact on the world, or whatever it is. So that is the first need, certainty. We all need to be certain that we're going to survive and we're going to be taken care of. And the other one, the second need, there are 6 in total. The second need I touched upon, a little bit when we're talking about habits, and is the need for variety. And again, I think it's one of the biggest reasons for negative habits. It's the reason that we don't have enough variety and excitement in our life. We're all going through the same routine every day, the same things, the same job, and our lives become boring. So the negative habits like smoking and drinking and anything that might affect your life negatively gives you the secondary benefit of fulfilling that need, at least temporarily. You feel a little more excitement or get a little more variety in your life by doing a bad habit. And unless you find a way to healthily fulfill that variety need, it's going to be very hard to make that permanent transition and get rid of the bad habit for the long term. The third need is the need for connection and love. And similarly, we all need to be loved. We all need to feel that we have friendships, partners, parents, and just a social support structure around us. And again, if you don't fulfill that need in some way, you're gonna find an unhealthy way to fulfill it, right? So these are just a couple of the needs. I highly recommend for people that are interested to check out Tony's video. It's just 20 minutes, but it's probably one of the models that has helped me the most with changing negative habits, both in myself and people that I work with.
Well, thank you for sharing that. One of the underlying things that I think people need to do is I don't have enough time. I can't get things done. One of the ways to fix that is to outsource things to gain time. And I think people struggle with outsourcing. What are some of the things that are the easiest to outsource that we should do so that we have the time to do the things we really want to do?
Well, outsourcing is a little bit tricky because it depends on a few things. First of all, let's take, for example, a bunch of things that you're doing on a weekly basis. Like every week, you're investing time into something. And some of the things you do like to do, some of the things you don't really like to do. Let's take, for example, cleaning your house or doing your laundry or doing accounting or doing some kind of administrative things in your business, something that you don't like to do on a daily basis. Now, for those things, it's very easy to know whether you should outsource or not. If you don't like doing it, if you're not good at it, you should definitely outsource it. Then it becomes a question of your income and whether that is worth it or not. So if you calculate how much money you're making an hour just by, summing up all of your income, and if that activity is much lower to outsource, like to pay somebody else to do it, than how much you're making an hour, it's a no-brainer. You should totally outsource it and invest more of that time into your business or into improving your work and career, just to keep increasing that income in the long run. For some things, though, they're much more expensive, right? It's not easy not everybody has the income level to hire a maid, for example, to do all the cleaning, or not everybody can afford to hire an accountant for their firm. So they have to do their taxes themselves. So the most useful exercises for me was to just calculate how much money you're earning per hour and calculate how much is it going to cost to outsource that activity, and to make the decision based on whether it's going to be worth to pay that amount of money and get that time back, or it's not going to be worth it.
And I think that's a struggle for a lot of people, is to let go. And you do have to let go. I mean, we've outsourced a lot of different things in our life at this point, and I don't mind it. And up front, it was a struggle, like, oh, I have to pay somebody to do this, which I can do myself, and they probably won't do it as well as me. But now that I've outsourced it all, now I just go, thank God I'm not doing that, because I can do something more productive. Now, the other side of that is we don't outsource stuff so we can sit home and watch TV. That's not a good idea. It's so that you can do the more productive things, the things where you bring much more value. So it's always a balance, but outsourcing a lot of work is a great idea.
Yeah. Out of interest, what kind of things have you outsourced in your business or life?
Personally, we do have someone who cleans our house every week. And as much as I fought my wife on that, I do realize now that if I had to do it, I just won't commit the time. I'll do like half an hour and then this, and like it turns into this whole long process. Whereas now I leave one morning, I come back that day, the house is clean. It's dramatic. I think another one, and this isn't so much outsourcing, but in the past, if I needed something, I would go to the store and buy it. And you don't think about it, but it's 15 minutes to the store. It's 10 minutes at the store. It's 15 minutes home. Now I just go on Amazon. I'm like, click, order, ship it. I'll get it in 2 days. I don't need it this minute, and it's here when I need it. So like a lot of things around the house, like changing filters and those kinds of things that need to get done. Like when I use a filter, I just get on Amazon and I order the replacement filter. And so when it comes time to do that, I'm not looking for it or what brand is it or what size is it. It's sitting right next to the item that needs to be replaced. So all our filters sit next to our heating systems. The water filter sits next to the water. Like everything's just there. When it comes time to do something, there's zero tension involved. We have a real estate. We flip properties. I can do every part of flipping that property. Every single part of it is outsourced. Every single part of it. I pay people who are the best at what they do to do all the different parts of the business. Even if I could do it, and even if I could do it better, I let go and I just pay people because I'm paying them a lot less per hour than it would take me to do it. And so across the thing, it gets done. The podcast is someone else does the editing. You know, there's probably other parts of it that I need to start outsourcing. And in time, I think as I become more comfortable and I know what I want and how to do it, I will outsource it. The other thing I do is I use a calendar, and it's not really outsourcing, but I put all my tasks on the calendar so that it reminds me when it needs to be done. So I'm kind of outsourcing the mental, oh, what do I need to do? When do I need to do it? I just put it on the calendar and then I just do it when it's supposed to get done. So it's kind of offloading the mental of doing that, you know, the keeping it up in my head. I put it down somewhere else so I don't have to.
Yeah. Awesome. It's interesting that you mentioned Amazon because it's not strictly outsourcing, but it follows the same principle. Like, is it worth your time to go and pick up the thing yourself rather than paying the delivery cost? It's not significant, right? So again, it's that outsourcing decision. Do I outsource the going to the store and getting it to somebody else to deliver it for me?
Absolutely. We could probably do that more so with groceries, but we tend to be much more inconsistent in life, just with the kids and the wife. And so I think at some point we might even just have groceries delivered, because if we get into a consistent pattern, it's easy to do that. Our problem, I think, is more wasted. I won't go to the grocery store. I will stop at the grocery store on the way home from something else, and we'll just grab a handful of things. And we're very list oriented. So when we go to the grocery store, we go with a list, and I just do what's on the list. I don't even look around. It's like, here's the list. This is what I need. Next, time to go. It's all systematized throughout life.
Awesome.
Is there anything else you wanted to share on the subject of living a more productive life, but didn't get a chance to?
That's a good question. I would say that if we're talking about techniques, the best thing that you can do right away that is going to increase your productivity is more focus. And focus not just on doing something, but focus on your most important tasks for the day that are usually the hardest. And how do you get yourself to focus, and how do you make that a priority practically? Because we can write it on a list of priorities and put it on the top of the list, but that's not guaranteed to get done. The way you make it a priority is to start your day with it. Like, start your work day on that hardest task. And I use a little trick when I work on a computer and my next task is to, let's say, write an article or something on the computer. I prepare that list on the night before so that when I come in on the next morning, it's ready to go. I don't have to do some planning or anything like that. I already know what my first task is, and it's ready to go. And not only that, but when I leave in the evening, I try to set up my computer so that it's ready to go. Let's say I'm writing an article. The Word file, I use Word to write articles, is open with the cursor blinking. All other windows are closed. So I don't have a chance to go on one of those loops into YouTube or Facebook or whatever it is, social media distractions. So everything is closed, and the Word file is there waiting for me to start writing. And that has been consistently, one of the techniques that has increased my personal productivity the most. Just focus, get rid of all other distractions, and start your day with the most important task, the task that is going to bring the most value in your life long term, whether that's working on a side business, working in your job, whatever is going to bring you the most results. Start your day with that task and make sure it's planned on the night before.
And I do that consistently. And I think that literally is the one secret. Like, if you do that consistently and get your number one thing done every day, it doesn't matter what happens the rest of the day. As long as you do the number one thing every day, everything else will work out.
Yep, exactly. And it's exactly the opposite happens if you don't do it, right? Most of the time, if we start with the easy and quick tasks, most of the time we don't find the time for the most important ones.
That is very true.
Yep.
Based on our conversation, what's one action step people can take to move forward this week?
I would say, using this last tip that I gave you, getting in your daily routine or daily habit to end every day with writing down a couple of tasks that are going to make most progress in your life, whether that's an exercise goal or a business goal, money goal, something in your career, whatever you're working on right now. Just make a list of all the things, all the tasks that are going to make the most progress forward, and set up your environment for the next morning that you're going to come in and start working, and turn that into a habit. Just turn it into a habit to end every workday with creating a plan, and start every workday with working on your hardest tasks first. And another tip, if you like using apps and if you're working on a computer, something that you can use, internet blocking app. Like, one example is Freedom. If you're on a Mac, Freedom is an easy way to turn off all your distractions, like social media websites, or even turn off the internet completely if you don't need it for work, on a schedule. So you would set up an automatic schedule on your computer so that the first hour of the day, you don't have internet, you don't have any distractions, and you can focus all that time on making progress on the most important thing.
And I think that is an excellent idea. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
it's time to learn the secrets of life. What's your secret to living an abundant life?
I would say the number one thing is to focus on delivering the value. Delivering value and not focusing so much on what you're getting, but on what you're giving. And that is a bit tricky to do because it feels like sacrifice. It feels like you're not taking care of your own needs. But here's the key. Focus on delivering the value that you enjoy doing intrinsically. So if it's your business and you're serving your customers, delivering the value every day shouldn't be for the money that you're getting or the praise that you're getting or anything like that. The thing for you, the reward that you're getting, is that you're getting to go to work and do the work that you enjoy every day. You enjoy doing the work itself. And everything else, the money that you're getting or anything as a side benefit, is just a side benefit. The main thing is that you get fulfillment from the work that you're doing. And if you do get fulfillment, it's very easy to focus on delivering the value. And the money, the abundance, will come as a result of consistently delivering the value too, as a part of your work or a company or business or whatever you're doing.
And that's very true. Help enough people get what they want, and you will have everything you want in life.
Yep.
What's one thing that you learned later in life that you wish you would have learned sooner?
It's a good question. Just give me a second to think about it. Yeah. So one thing that I learned quite late was that how important people are when it comes to business. In the beginning, I was trying to do everything myself and not almost like trying to refuse the help of others. And that was my mindset growing up. Like I wanted to do it all myself. I wanted to prove myself. I wanted to almost like show the world that I can do it and prove to myself that I can do it. But looking back, I'd say that if I took more advice, if I took more help, whether it's working collaboratively with other people or hiring people to do something in the business, even just asking friends for advice, I think progress would have been much faster and much easier than trying to do it all myself.
We get a lot more done in life with help than we do alone.
Yep.
What's one piece of advice you would give your younger self?
Learn marketing.
And that's true. Sales and marketing, right? People don't realize this, but when it comes to marketing, right? You want a date? That's marketing. You want your parents to give you something? That's marketing. You want a promotion at work? That's marketing. You want to sell your business? That's marketing. Everything in life is marketing. And we are the most marketed to society everywhere. So even if you don't want to market, at least understand what's happening to you.
Definitely. And it's not just about creating a business or getting a date. It's also noticing, as you said, how much the world is affecting you through marketing and how you're almost tricked into decisions that you wouldn't normally make that are not good for you. And you have the chance to recognize that if you know marketing.
And that's very true. And it's one of the reasons I keep the website clean. There's no ads on it. There's no ads in the podcast. Everything is focus. And I do that on purpose because I don't want people distracted.
Totally.
If people want to find you and connect, what's the best place for them to do that?
The best place will be my website. You can find all the articles and the interviews that I'm doing over there. You can also find the courses that I'm going to be publishing in the future on the website. And the website is georgehalachev.com, one word. You can also Google it. It will come up.
And I will put a link into the show notes with that, so it makes it easy for people to find. Thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing so many great ideas.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure, Rocky. Thank you.
Preparing the night before for the next morning helps you to get moving very quickly and without friction in the morning. It removes all the thinking and the interruptions and let you start fresh on what's most important. This week's action step is to finish the day being ready for the morning and then doing the hardest task first. Taking action and getting stuff done is the secret to creating the life of your dreams. George helped us in many ways to overcome ourselves and do just that. Small steps compound over time. You just have to start taking the steps, put the systems in place, be productive, and get it done. It sounds so simple, but for some people, it's hard. And when it is, get help. Thanks for listening today. And if you like this episode, please share it with a few friends. It can help start a great conversation, and I'd appreciate that. You can also connect with me on Facebook. There's both a Facebook page and a Facebook group for Richer Soul. What's preventing you from moving forward, and who are you putting on your team to help you build the life you deserve? Taking no action creates a far worse outcome in life than trying something and failing. Can I help you achieve your goals through coaching and accountability? Just email me. We can start with a short chat to see if we're a good fit for coaching. For many people, one session allows them a giant leap forward towards their dreams. You can get me at rocky@richersoul.com. I'd love to hear how you're doing and how the information I've shared has helped. Thanks for listening. Have an abundant week.